Welcome to Blaise the Trail podcast, bringing you authentic and vulnerable stories that will inspire you to breathe fire on this world and become your own hero. Here's your host, Blaise Hunter.
Hello, welcome to Blaise the Trail podcast. I'm Blaise Hunter, and I am a fertility expert. No, I don't help people get pregnant. This is a different type of expertise. I actually inspire women to birth confidence, to birth books, business ideas, dreams, passions, and goals, as well as discover peace amongst infertility. After going through my own sets of traumas and tragedies, dealing with a rare disease, and experiencing 3 miscarriages, I decided to take charge of my life and not let life happen to me, but rather become the hero of my own life. I am not barren. I continually birth my purpose every day. So that's why I created this show, to demonstrate how even though we all experience setbacks and disappointments, we still have a destiny to birth. We just need to blaze the trail and be expecting. This podcast will inspire you to lean into your hardships and allow them to be the vehicle that transports you into becoming the hero of your life so you can breathe fire on this world. This week's episode is called The Power of Flexibility, and some points we'll cover are: how can we recognize and release the tensions in our bodies? We will explore the deeper meaning of being flexible and why it's so important to have a mind-body-soul connection. And I have my friend here, Stephanie Young, to speak on this topic. Stephanie is a teacher turned family support worker turned yoga instructor. She was always searching for a way to help people. She just wasn't clear on how. Stephanie was first introduced to yoga during college as a form of stress relief and quickly fell in love with it when she realized it could be so much more than that. As time has moved on, her yoga practice evolved and grew along with her. It has given her the time and space to become reacquainted with her body after marriage and the birth of her 2 children. What keeps Stephanie rooted in yoga is it can be whatever you want it to be: a workout, a spiritual practice, or a way to relieve stress or heal. Yes, it can be all of those things. Stephanie tries to ensure that anyone who attends her classes, workshops, or joins her online, their experience has been informative, lighthearted, and accessible. She is phenomenal, and she is my friend. Welcome, Stephanie, to the show.
Oh, thank you.
This is so exciting to have you on. We met, at a yoga studio. You were an instructor. I was a chakra dance facilitator, and we just, connected right away and been friends ever since. And I've just learned so much from you. So I just appreciate you being on today.
Oh, totally. I'm so excited. Like nervous, excited.
You're going to be great. You're so knowledgeable, and you can tell it's your passion. And I love that when you're speaking to someone and it's coming from that heart place, it's just magical because it connects with you and it lights you up. So I do notice that. So that's fantastic.
Oh, thank you. And everything you say just comes out so beautiful. I'm a little teary-eyed already. I don't know how you do it.
Aw, thank you. I think that's like the whole point, right? Is just to connect with people and show that when you're tapped into knowing who you are and being unapologetically you, it really does, impact the world and impact people. And that's what we're trying to do with our work individually too, right?
I think it comes down to being genuine. Like you can just tell. And I think there's more of an importance on being genuine. Like everybody wants those stronger connections now, but you can't make connections if you are not connected to yourself. And I think that's just the way we are going now.
Well, and that's the push-pull of trying to always fit in and be what society or your circle maybe wants you to be or fit you in a box. And to be genuine means to not really fit in, is just to be you. And we're all unique and different. And let's celebrate that and really tap into that genuine, different uniqueness about ourselves versus trying to be like everybody. Right?
Exactly.
So we talked about your journey getting into yoga and your passion to help people heal. But really, maybe let's go in a bit deeper in your backstory of how you got to be so passionate about yoga and helping people with health and wellness.
Cool. So I kind of started, as I said, just in college on a whim. I was starting to get tension headaches and migraines. You're always really tense because there's always some paper to write or some final coming up. So I took it on a whim, and it ended up being like a hot yoga class. And yeah, it was scary. And I spent most of the class on my mat just sweating and afraid I was going to pass out. So I kind of avoided yoga classes for a while and tried some DVDs and other things. And then that was while I was taking my ed degree. So I have a 4-year Bachelor of Education degree through the U of A. And I was in about, I'll say, my 2nd year of teaching, for sure into my 3rd. And I was learning, like I loved educating, I loved the practice, but it was just not speaking to me like I thought it would. So I was starting to look for something else, and I, on a whim, took a yoga teacher training. So it ended up being a yoga therapy training. I didn't even have the money for it because I sunk so much money into paying for stuff for my classroom to provide for students, whether it was pencils or granola bars. Like, there are really hidden costs to being a passionate elementary school teacher, and kudos to everyone who can retire in that field, but I just didn't have enough of myself to give anymore. So my now husband, we were just dating at the time, actually paid for my yoga teacher training because I could not afford it. So, like, meant to be. Like, I probably should have known right then he was going to be mine.
Yeah, absolutely.
And during that time, I realized I didn't want to teach elementary school anymore. I took this yoga teacher training. I had about a month reprieve where I was going into more of a social work atmosphere. So I took the yoga teacher training, started like the weekend after in the social work field, and I loved it, and I got to work with families. But then at the same time, my yoga practice was starting to grow. So I was starting to do some more meditations with children who had been through trauma. I was starting to do some of the movement therapy with some adults and children with disabilities, because there was a whole disability side of the company that I was with as well. And they were just so open to learning and trying new things. They actually paid for more meditation training for me so I could work with a lot of our children who are at risk, or adults that were going through withdrawals, or that were working through addictions. It was amazing. And then life went on and I continued there. But then when I got pregnant with our first child, my son, I was afraid I didn't have much to give in that field anymore. I was just so consumed with my passion for wanting to be a mommy and a wife, a teammate, that I jumped 2 feet into the pool that was yoga. So here I am still. I think it's been 10-ish years of practicing. I think I've been teaching now for 6 years, but everything has just seemed to siphon into this point. Like, I get to be at home with my family. We have a little hobby farm. I get to continue to be there for my husband. And it just works. Like, I love it. I'm passionate about it. My kids play games where they're like, see ya, I'm going to go teach yoga. I've been able to incorporate them into my practice. So I was doing some mommy and me classes that I got to bring them with me, and they loved it because they thought they were helping me teach. They are, Scott will be 4 in February, and Emily will be 2, in 2 days.
Oh,
wow. Time just moved forward, and I wasn't ready for it. But so now it's just part of our lives.
You said some really cool things in that backstory there that I want to pull from, that you were in tune. You recognized where you needed to stop something and move towards yoga, and it was like pulling you. But many people feel those pressures, like, I have a degree, I have education, I've paid money for this, I'm going to stick with it, because that's kind of where society goes in these day and ages. Like, you pick this career, you paid the money, you've made your bed, let's go in it, right? But, it's against popular opinion. It's against popular, the choice to say, no, and that's not really the path actually anymore. It's not a waste because you always have that education and that experience, but you were in tune to what was pulling you, to what connected you to your heart and your passion. And I really applaud you for that.
Thank you. And I don't want anyone to think it's not hard, because I completely understand. Like, my dad was in the military. towards the end, he was in for 20 years. Toward the end, it wasn't super his thing, but he stuck with it because he had committed. That was his commitment. After he was retired, then he retrained and he went into the oil field, and then my mom is a dental assistant, and that's all she's ever done. But that was that generation. I think it is becoming more popular slowly. Popular is maybe not the right word. More
acceptable.
Yes, acceptable for us to not stay in the field that we originally committed to. Because really, I have a late birthday, so I was 17 going to college. Did I know for sure that I want to be a teacher forever? No, but I knew that education was important, and I will never, ever regret sticking with my degree and finishing my education. Never. But it's certainly not where I am today. It applies, and you learn how to work with children and people and how you make a plan. But I think it made me more comfortable to be able to access information and apply it. And I've learned that that's not a skill that everybody knows about or has. And so to sum up, it's very difficult and scary. And I'm lucky that I had the support of my now husband. He said, whatever makes you happy, we are okay financially. Let's do this while we can. And even today, I am very, very lucky that I have such a strong backbone in our relationship and in our family, because he just is so supportive that I'm able to do this.
Oh, that's amazing. And such a true testament of a partnership, and really plays along with the whole tone of today's episode, which is the power of flexibility. And we're going to really discuss all the different meanings of flexibility, and just you not being so rigid and like, this is the career I must do because I took the schooling and the education and I have this career and I'm going to stick with it, when it wasn't your heart space, it wasn't your passion maybe later on. And so you leaned into the flexibility of maybe moving into a different path, a different avenue for yourself. And I want to really encourage that for people in their life. Like, you've got to ask those questions of yourself. Like, what is the push-pull? Like, sometimes we're supposed to push through and, stick it out, or sometimes it's supposed to be flexible and maybe it looks different, but lean into it and allow yourself to explore and not just be shut down on one thing, right?
And just being open-minded. Like, yeah, change is scary. Change is definitely scary. But how do you know until you try? And what would have been the worst case scenario? I took the yoga teacher training and hated it. Well, okay, that's fine. I lost 20 days and I got to have alone time and learn how to stretch my body and move my body more appropriately. And yeah.
Another point there where you talked about the reason why you even went to yoga in the first place was stress headaches. And I want to encourage people to, like, I'm a big believer of Western and Eastern medicine, alternative plus traditional, because I think we do need both. I am not one or the other. I've been battling a health condition. I need my doctors. I need medicine. So, like, I'm very thankful for that. But it's not my only healing tool, because it often treats the symptom. It's not treating the root cause. So, like, go to the doctors, go do that. But then you did something really cool where you went also to an alternative route, which in turn became your purpose, right?
Yeah. And it's fun. I joke that, like, when I do other teacher trainings, or I was doing some yoga history stuff, and they're talking about authenticity and how it's becoming very westernized. And I was the first one to say, like, I am super white. And I can understand how people would want a more traditional avenue. Like, if you're going to do yoga, I'm going hard. I want the traditional. Well, traditional isn't maybe what you think, and maybe that's not what's best for you. Maybe it's just connecting with someone, and that's your route. Like, I was lucky enough that I just randomly found an instructor in a program that I don't know. I don't know if Google, I don't even remember how I found it, because Facebook wasn't so popular then. So I don't know, meant to be. You just got to pay attention, and if something feels right, you just jump in. I'm going to keep saying that, I think.
Be flexible in your mindset, right?
Yes, you can't be so rigid, because you'll be very stressed and sad, I think.
Yes. So, okay, I'm going to be honest here. I was that person that really judged yoga.
I remember you saying that.
I had this whole mentality that it wasn't a workout, that, you know, you often think like pain is progress and cardio is exercise. So how can yoga be an exercise? You're just staying on a mat, right? Like, and if you don't actually do it, then you don't know. You're judging off of ignorance. You've never experienced it. You've never been there, but you're making a judgment off a perception of it. And when I had bone issues with this health condition, I was the big Zumba girl. I was cardio, hardcore dance. I was a Zumba instructor. It was my jam. But then I couldn't do high impact because that was working against my bone issues, and I needed to do more weight-bearing exercises, right? And so I got introduced to Pilates and to yoga and a whole other avenue that I didn't know about and how beneficial it is. And can you maybe just walk us through and explain how yoga actually helps release tensions from our body and minds, how it is an amazing workout, and maybe what are some common misconceptions that maybe other people are feeling the way I have felt?
You do have people who are like, yeah, I'm all yoga, I'm all in, or no, I hate it, I'm not flexible. That's stupid. I have all different kinds of friends who think the same thing. Well, I have to be flexible to do yoga. Well, I don't want to just sit. Yoga, like anything, you get what you put in. So if you go in thinking you're going to hate it, you'll probably not have a good time. If you go in just open to the experience, then you're going to be enlightened in a very wide variety of ways. I think it all comes back to also repetitive movement. So coming back to the theme of rigidity and flexibility, we are going through our lives now in a way that we are doing these repetitive motions. We're stuck in our motions. So going through, like if you're a runner, you're a runner. Those are the muscles I use. I don't need other ones. I don't need to stretch other ones. This is what I have. Maybe if you just elliptical or you just lift weights. We are so rigid, and not just in our exercises, but in our lives, in our day-to-day lives. We are very routine. We are creatures of habit. The problem is you are not using all those other muscles. So you are letting other things wither, which you can take in a variety of different ways. So either very physically or emotionally, if you are always focusing on the same things, the same hardships, the same challenges, the same strengths and weaknesses, you are not open to change. You are not open to trying new things and opening new doors and windows. You will be stuck. And I think that's part of it, is that you have to be open to try new things and be comfortable. In terms of your mind and body, when you look at yoga, we talk about, in trauma specifically, this helps to really put a fine point on it. Yoga believes that when you're faced with a traumatic event, it leaves a samskara, or an imprint, a residual imprint on your body. So, for example, doctors are finding that women who have grown up having body issues, they are hypersensitive about their weight, what they eat, everything is very controlled. Well, later on, they're starting to develop things like digestive issues or problems with their gut health. Everything is becoming connected.
Oh my goodness, you just said so many amazing things there. Yes, because like you said, we get, in our routine and what we're good at. And so we just stick to, I'm a cardio person, I'm a this, I do spin class and I don't do anything else and I'm fit. And this was me because I was the Zumba person. I have muscles, I am cardio strong. But when I wasn't able to do that anymore and I took yoga and Pilates, the first thing came out from the instructors were, wow, you don't have a strong body. And I was like, what are you talking about? I'm built. But I didn't have stabilization muscles because I've let them atrophy. And like, that's what you just said. Like, we don't often know what else our bodies are not working until we try something new. And I sucked at it, people. Like, I didn't rock it like I rocked Zumba. I sucked, but I knew that I needed to work on those muscles now and that intention and that exercise. So I stuck with it. But it was about getting the whole body working together and activating and looking at my exercise and health in a different light. And I think that's what the misconception can be, is that we don't know enough about it, so then we close the book on it, or we don't think that creates strength, but it does. And all what you just said was absolutely amazing, to be connected with yourself, to try something different. It will be uncomfortable, but maybe it's something you actually need for your overall wellness and health, right?
And I think it turns a different lens on wellness and health as well, because you can lift weights until the cows come home. Like, you could do that for 30 years, but what about the things that we need every day? Like, I had the perfect example. I had my mother-in-law came over to help me after I had my second child. So she came over so I could nap, like many great mother-in-laws do. She came to watch my baby, have a coffee, and just so I could have some quiet time, just to nap or have a bath or shower while my husband was at work. I was forever grateful. But she could not walk up and down the stairs without the railing. Now, she isn't in poor health. She's in excellent health, but she lost that ability to support her own body walking up and down the stairs. So there's balance and there's stability. Things that, as we age naturally, those things do deteriorate if we don't focus on them, but that's not always what you find when you go to the gym. Like, we need more applicable, healthy ways to exercise and to move and strengthen these muscles that you need every day, not just your superficial ones. So that one really struck home. And I'm lucky enough to live in a community where we have such a wide variety of people that are beginning to become more open-minded. I like to call it enlightened or awakened, like just to a little more of an awareness. I had some family friends who wanted to do yoga, but they had limited mobility. So they couldn't stand for a very long time. It was a husband and wife couple, good friends of ours, and they couldn't stand for a long time. They didn't know if they could get up and do a lot of movements. So I adapted a practice so that we could stretch and strengthen from a seated position. So we brought 2 chairs into the living room, and we did some strength with the support of the chair. We did some squats. We did a variety of different poses. And then we did end with a yoga nap. I like to call it our shavasana. And it was a beautiful experience. They were willing to try. I was able to come to the comfort of their home and coach them through it so I could look at their bodies and help them engage what needed to be engaged, just to feel things that we forget to turn on and to feel every day. And again, I think this is something you could go so many directions with, physically and emotionally, just being open to feeling what we had maybe shut down in the past or chose not to focus on because it didn't apply every day, we thought.
Love that, because we need to really broaden our definition of exercise, of health, of wellness, of flexibility. So that leads me to my next question of, in yoga, flexibility is really an attitude that invests and transforms the mind as well as the body. But it seems like more in traditional Western physiological terms, flexibility is just about the ability to move muscles, joints through their complete range of motion, right? But we need to expand our definition of what being flexible means, and yoga does a really good job of this. So let's explore the deeper meaning of flexibility, that we need to be flexible, yes, in stretches of what you do in yoga for like physical exercise of stretching the muscles and, creating that flexibility, but also being flexible as an attitude, right?
Oh, certainly. It always comes back to the same stuff. It's creating that link. So when you go through these repetitive motions, like I kind of touched on earlier, you are getting stuck, like you have your blinders on when you're driving or going about your life. If I stray too far from the path, I might get scared or nervous. And as humans, we're afraid. Fear is a really big obstacle for people. Fear and discomfort. Nobody wants to be uncomfortable. So sometimes that's part of not wanting to go to yoga class or of not trying new things in general. It's the fear of discomfort. Well, I don't want to be embarrassed. Well, what if other people are more flexible than me? Doesn't matter. This person beside you might be thinking the same thing, or the person beside you is so overwhelmed in their life that they just want to come and lay on the yoga mat for a while. We have to get out of our heads, because then you won't You're not going to enjoy life if you are stuck in your slump, in your little turtle shell of emotion. You need to, and it's hard and scary, but we have to be willing to try. And we have to be brave and fierce and strong. And we need to be heroines, men and women. We need to break out and try new things, because who knows how good you could feel later.
Absolutely. I love that. And yes, it's about creating flexibility in like the full definition of our lives, not just muscle and bone and all of that and ligaments. It's about flexibility in our life. Like, we can't be that rigid, because then we're limited to one thing and we're not experiencing life to the fullest and allowing setbacks and issues and challenges that, just like a tree, right? A tree will break in the windstorm, because if it just stands in and puts its roots down and says, no wind, you're not going to touch me today, but it would snap off. But the tree actually bends with the wind.
I think that's part of how my yoga practice, a lot of my life has evolved too, because in the beginning it was just about being a little more flexible, relieving some stress, hoping to help with those tension migraines I was having. And then as time passed, I want to be healthy and around to support my husband and my family. I don't want to not be able to do stuff with my kids. I don't want to have injuries because I exercise too hard or I push myself too hard and now I'm not available for my family. And I think people feel that way. What if something happens to me and I can't support my family? Now, before we unpack that, there's so many such caregiver attitudes in there, and so many of us are, and you don't even really realize it. But what if something happens to you? You need to look at different directions, different avenues for healing and for health. When we look at different styles of yoga, there's a style called yin yoga in particular. So you hold it for longer periods of time. It's a slower paced class. You don't do as many poses because you hold it anywhere from 3 to 20 minutes. But 20 is a big deal for holding a position for anybody, any length of time. But that one is designed to get deeper into your connective tissue. So when we talk about injury, it's not uncommon to have an injury in a place that isn't related to where the trauma is. So what I mean is, you might think that you have a headache when really there's a tight muscle in your shoulder that's pulling something tight and you're just feeling it in your head.
Yes.
Yeah, physically and emotionally. Like, you could sprain your ankle because your hips are out of alignment and they're putting pressure on something else. So if you didn't try, you just don't know. Like, our health is important and we only get one life and we have to take care of ourselves and others. And as a caregiver person, you need to, you are the house, you are the foundation of your family. You need to take care of yourself.
That's so amazing that you bring that up, because yes, if you can't recognize where maybe the root problem is, if you're only focusing on one avenue, one thing. So you need to actually work on being in tune with your whole body, with yourself, with your mind, body, soul. And that is all encompassing with being flexible, is understanding maybe I've always done it this way, but maybe it's not the right way, or maybe this time I need to look at it from a different perspective or investigate where the root is. And yes, maybe it's my pinky that's hurting, but it's actually coming from my elbow, right? Like, we don't know until we investigate and be flexible of where that could lead you. And don't be so rigid, like, no, I've always had this, my mom had this, and this is her problem, so this is my problem. And we become rigid with the outcome versus being open and flexible to what might uncover for our overall health, right?
Yes. Oh, definitely.
And so we're talking about like being flexible. And so do you think we've talked about a little bit earlier about being physically and mentally flexible relates to the importance of being flexible in our lives to release those blocks, those setbacks and those traumas? Because you talked about a little bit, like, it can be emotional trauma. Like, you know, rape victims are very tight in that, you know, sacral area because there was severe trauma there. But then it also can, if it's not addressed, then can go into other parts, and you might present and feel different things in other parts of your body or mental health, but really it was from the trauma of that, or miscarriages, right? So I've had DNCs. I had a lot of pelvic floor weakness because it was tense down there and contracted and stressed, and I had to be mindful of how to release the pelvic floor because I was always in a state of stress and fear. And you could have a car accident, and that's a trauma. But if you didn't actually work through those memories of those cellular memories, then there's going to be other issues down the road when you don't address them. So yeah, let's maybe walk a little bit through your experience with that, or your feelings of relating to, with, you know, being flexible in life and your attitude and being flexible in your actual body.
Oh, definitely. So I've been recently in our community, I've been doing what I call a trauma release. That's probably not the best word for it, but a trauma, maybe support yoga class. And the idea of trauma in yoga is that it resides in our bodies. And so when you're faced with a traumatic event, your mind and body, there's a fracture. You try to disconnect so you can disassociate with the trauma. So when we're doing this trauma-sensitive yoga, the goal is that you try to reconnect your mind and your body. Now, trauma can mean so many things to so many people, and everyone, I don't care who you are, if you sat and you thought about it, everyone has gone through trauma. It might not be the same as somebody else, and you might not even think it is trauma, but it is. Everybody's lost someone or gone through something very difficult or been in an accident or a health problem, lost a pet. It's not up for us to decide what your trauma is. Everybody has it. It's scary and rotten and awful, but everyone has had some sort of trauma in their lives. So when that does happen, your body disassociates. So what needs to happen, and what I focus on really, it's not forcing you to forget, because that makes us human, memory. You need to remember, but you need to know that it's okay. It's okay to be sad. It's okay to cry. What you're feeling is okay, and it's appropriate. I can't tell you how to feel after your grandpa passed away. I can't tell you how to feel when you were abused by a stranger or a family friend or what have you. But how you feel is okay, and it's healthy, and let's work through that. And now let's try to let that float away. We'll come back to it. It's there. We're never losing that. We're not losing that experience, but it's okay to feel, and it's okay to not live in that moment. I know when working with people with PTSD, for them to relive the moment, that's the problem. They're stuck in that moment. They keep experiencing it as it's happening. Your brain and body don't know the difference between a memory or something that's happening right now. So if you continue to dwell on these traumatic events, your body is reliving them. So when we do trauma-sensitive yoga, you are breaking that connection. It happened. We're working through it, but we don't need to relive it every day. So that's when we talk about your body is stuck in this fight or flight or freeze response. Your body is always clenching. These same muscles are always clenching. Let's try to relax some of this tension that you're holding in your body and come back to yourself. So when we do yoga practices to help reconnect your mind and your body, it begins, often it's candlelit, it's very comfortable. We'll lead with a breathing exercise, which is not as scary as it sounds. And it's just placing both your hands on your belly. Feel the weight of your hands on your belly. Let that anchor your awareness. Try to let your belly push against your hands. See your belly expand. See your hands lift up off your belly. And as you breathe out, watch your tummy sink back in. That took 20 seconds of instruction. And I bet you could sit and do that yourself. I actually do that to help me fall asleep at night when my brain is frazzled and I'm scared or nervous or anxious about something. Just small things like this that you don't always have to label as yoga, or you don't have to label it as anything. But I know that taking 2 minutes before bed, I will get a better sleep and I will feel more relaxed and more connected to my body. So it's these little things that we can do all the time, not necessarily in a yoga studio or class, that can help to reconnect your body to your mind.
Oh, That's a great, explanation. I love how you're walking us through that. I love your wisdom there. And it's, yes, so important because I think we are disconnected and we don't often put the two and two together, and how powerful our mindset, our mind, our emotions can then affect our physical, our bodies. And we think we need to work hard on the physical all the time, but honestly, I shifted to the mind and the connection part and the emotions, and it was crazy. Like one example, I was, taking a class, and I needed to release some tension in my neck. I was so tense. It was so tight. And the instructor was like, okay, I need you to just relax. And it's like, okay, yeah, relax, okay, right? She has her hands on my neck and my back. And as she's telling me this, I'm like, okay, we can do this. We can do this, Blaise. And all I did, I kid you not, was I just envisioned all those muscles and just took a deep breath, like you had said, and I just moved them with my mind. I literally just let it go. And instantly the instructor was like, wow, did you feel that? And I was like, I did. And I did that with my mind. Like I didn't do that with my body, actually. Like I just sat there and said, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to let go of it in my mind. And I said, I'm going to let go. I let go. And I did. My body responded to the mind. And that's the power of the flexibility, is working them in tandem, not disconnected, right?
Definitely. And there's more and more research, if you look for it, about the mind and the body. So they were doing some research about people who are going through chemo and were diagnosed with cancer, various stages, various forms, and those who meditated while they were getting their chemo treatments. So, and all I mean by meditation is they were sitting there, and while they were receiving the chemo, they were imagining it eating their tumors or their cancerous cells. That's it. So you could play like a game of Pac-Man in your head. It's like the medicine, the chemo is eating all the bad things in your body and taking them away from you. I can't remember the exact number, but they were significantly more likely to be cancer-free at the end of their rounds. Like it wasn't that day. They did this with each treatment that they had, but they were significantly more likely to become cancer-free after their treatments because they were just tying in their bodies. They were just imagining. And you can think of it as imagining, or you can think of it as meditating. But they were picturing their bodies healthy and whole, and that's what they became. And I think that ties into success, too. Like if you are one of those people who things always happen to them, like they think the world is against them. I didn't get this promotion because, well, so-and-so got in my way. Or the boss doesn't like me, or something like that. Well, yeah, you're going to be stuck there, probably forever. But if you're one of those people that can sit and you know what you want, I want that promotion. It's meditating. You sit and you picture yourself with that promotion. What will you look like? What will it feel like? Will there be new responsibilities? What are they going to be? How is it going to make you feel? And then you pull those feelings into your body. I know that if I get this promotion, this will be my new job role. This is what I will look like physically. I will dress better. I'm going to wear this shirt to work. How is it going to make me feel? I know that it's going to make me feel happy, more confident, more secure, because it's going to be more money. And if you can pull those in and try to feel those right now. If you know you want to be happy, what do you think happiness feels like? What does it look like? And feel that in your body right now. You are more likely to get that promotion and be more successful. And I think it's just amazing that it's not a difficult thing. It's not hard. It doesn't take a lot of time. I'm stressed. I want to be more calm. What would it look like? Let me think about it. And that's it. That's meditation.
And it doesn't have to be, because I know yoga or anything holistic a little bit different than the traditional ways of looking at flexibility, health, and wellness. We can think, oh, that's a little, I don't want to go there. And I'm Christian. Like that was always viewed as like, that's not in line with our religion. But you know what? I get to decide. I'm like, well, that's not my spiritual practice. I am a Christian. I have that. But I know I need this to help my actual physical body and create that mindfulness and create that connection with my body. And that's not hoo-hoo. That's actually real. We need that, right?
Yeah. Oh, certainly. And I think that's also part of the hesitation with yoga and meditation, is that they think it has to be some huge spiritual practice. Well, no. Like if you look at interviews from Steve Jobs or some of the very successful celebrities or entrepreneurs, they talk about meditating every day. Well, what did they do? They sat for a few minutes and pictured themselves successful. I have a lot of people say, well, I don't want to try meditation. I can't sit and think of nothing. Well, you don't have to sit and think of nothing. If I tell you to think about nothing, you might see the word nothing in your head, and then you play around with fonts and colors of the letters. And then maybe the letters, like it, to make you think about nothing is such a scary thought for so many people. And I think that's when it really cuts the legs out of meditation, so to speak. Like it scares people so they don't want to try, because we don't want to be uncomfortable and we don't want to look like we don't know what we're doing. But it's just such an easy thing to incorporate into every day. Like I do it for success, I do it for stress relief. And when I do yoga, I sit with my cup of tea in my lap sometimes, or meditation, sorry. I sit with my cup of tea in my lap, and I just sit and I think about my hands wrapped around my warm cup of tea. I pause and I see what I can smell. What does my tea smell like today? What's in my tea? What sensations are my body feeling right now? What do I hear in the house? Well, I know my kids are sleeping. I can hear the wind chimes outside. I can hear the wind. It's not this groundbreaking thing. And it's not the traditional way that meditation was taught. No, but it's more accessible.
Yes, and it leads, more safety in that feeling of mindfulness and thinking of your thoughts, because I think many women, we are flooded with emotions and those worries and those stressors the moment we do sit in silence. So then we don't. We distract with music, TV, and activity, because I don't want to sit in that silence and be alone with my mind, because my mind is overloaded with stressors, right?
Exactly. And I'm not perfect. I fall into it too. I was talking just the other day with a friend of mine, and I was saying, I don't know why I feel so tired. Like the kids went down and I listened to an audiobook while I did the dishes, and then I went and I was listening to music while I was in the shower. And the friend of mine was like, well, when did you just stop doing things? Yeah. When were you just in silence? I'm like, good point. So it happens to everyone. Sitting and listening to a podcast, you're still engaged. Listening to an audiobook or music, or if you're reading, you haven't disengaged from anything. You're still in it, but just put the book away and sit for a minute. It doesn't have to be long. You could set the timer for 30 seconds. I think 30 seconds is like the minimum. You just sit for 30 seconds, set the timer on your phone, and that's it.
Well, and that's just how you were saying, like, you need to get to know yourself and be in tune. And you can only do that when you actually sit with your thoughts. And it doesn't mean, I'm just going to let all these flooded emotions that are toxic and overwhelming and just take me over. And no, it's about, how do I feel about that? I have a stressor, or I had a fight with my partner. How do I feel about it? How can I work through that? How can I do better in my approach? What do I need from them? It makes you have these dialogues within yourself and understand what your thought process is. And that's all about the mind-body connection and getting to know yourself. And I always use the analogy of, do I need to be a salmon today or a tuna? Because the salmon goes against the current and needs to fight through it, or the tuna goes with the flow. So some days I got to power through and push that blockage down, and other times I'm like, no, that's a wall that's saying, no, stop going here, go with the flow. But you have to understand who you are. You have to understand, be in tune with your mind and body, but you only get in tune by sitting there and working on your mindset and your thoughts, right?
Yeah, well, definitely. And coming back, it can be scary. It's scary sitting in your shit. Sorry, I said I wouldn't swear. It's scary sitting with your own stuff, your own poop. It's not fun to work through your emotions and your traumas and your sensitivities, even if it's just you had an argument or you really disagreed with something at work and you were really stewing on it and you can't help it. It really just irked you. It really rubbed you the wrong way. Sitting with that sucks, but then you can move past it. tying back again to that mind-body, like if you're reliving it and reliving it and reliving it, your body is getting stuck in it because your body doesn't know the difference between a memory and what's really happening. Your body thinks you're reliving it, so the same muscles are tensing up. Your whole body's in that fight response when no, you don't have to be. But that's also when you're most creative, is when you let yourself sit, you work through it. And I've had people say, well, these things keep popping up in your head. Well, that's probably because they're important. If you're sitting and trying to just sit in silence and something it's like on replay, well, it's probably important. Why is it on replay? Sit there and think about that. Why am I stuck dwelling on the situation? What really bugged me? What can I do about it? And I think that's part of where we get stuck too. Well, you don't have to be a victim in your own life. Mm-hmm. Yes, terrible things happen to us, and it's awful. And I'm not trying to take away from that. But do you want to be the victim in your own life, or do you want to be the heroine?
That is the power of flexibility. It's not that you're going to stop the stressors or the traumas or the setbacks, but it's like I choose to release them, to work through them, to release them and be flexible and lean into that, right?
Yeah.
Oh,
exactly.
Beautiful. I love this. We could talk all day. But so you currently, I know COVID has changed things. You currently do things with your yoga practice. What are you doing? How can people learn from you? Or what kind of classes are you offering in meditation?
All good questions. So I'm teaching a little bit. I'm open to private sessions too. So I've been doing some private sessions. I have a studio in town that I'm lucky enough that I have a great relationship with the owner. She lets me rent it out and see clients there. I'm doing a few live classes. I have some prenatal stuff going on. I don't have a lot of meditation stuff booked for like in person, but on my website, so www.yogapure.org, I have recorded yoga classes and meditations. And there I have meditations that are from about 3 minutes to I have one that's about 45 minutes. And all you have to do is turn it on and you listen. That's all. I don't ask anything crazy of you. You don't have to go into crazy movements or sit in an uncomfortable position. You just get to be comfortable. So even if you lay on your bed and listen to me, that's great. Thank you, and you're welcome. Or I have a variety of yoga classes recorded on there, and I have yin on there. I have prenatal. I have children's. I have some trauma release on there, as well as I really like full moon and new moon stuff. I am very much a hippie in my soul, and so I have a full moon flow and yin practice. So there's lots of stuff to try on my website if you can't get in studio to see me, or if you're not comfortable doing one-on-one. If you want, I can do consults online, and we can build a practice to the best meet your body. That's something I worked on before, seeing how you move and taking into account what you want to work on. So if that's something, people can also contact me either through the website, or I have Instagram at Stephanie Yoga Pure 1, or the website is probably the best way to get in contact with me.
Awesome. And yes, you're in Bonnyville, Alberta. So if you're there in that Lakeland area, definitely go to Stephanie. I've worked with her. She's fabulous. But if you're elsewhere in the world listening, definitely head to her website because, she's got lots of amazing things for the online community as well. So thank you so much for coming on today. You have just been a wealth of knowledge, and I just love listening to your passion and your drive to help people heal and be well.
Oh, thank you. I love it. I love that I have this opportunity and these great friends. It's just wonderful.
Oh, that's amazing. So recapping what we covered today, your flexibility is dependent on how in tune you are with your mind, body, and soul. Working on being genuine creates flow in your life as well as your body. Your body flexibility will respond to a flexible mindset, and sitting in your mess allows for the release of tensions and traumas and pains, which is the power of flexibility. That's it for this week's episode. Challenge yourself to be vulnerable, lean into the difficulties, and have those open conversations so we can rise up as the heroes of our lives and let us breathe fire together. If you want to learn more about my consulting programs, purchase my book, or have me speak at your next event, please visit blaisehunter.com. I do have a free offer for everyone. I know things are crazy in the world right now. We can get overwhelmed and feel anxiety. Well, when we feel lost when we're driving, what do? We Google Maps that stuff, right? We go to the map. So why not go to the map for our actual mindset and emotional health and get us back from being lost and overwhelm and anxiety into being the heroine of our lives and arrive at that positive, balanced destination. Go to my website, click on the free offers tab. I have a video there, Map Your Life, 10-minute video to get you back to peace and balance. If you've enjoyed this show, please subscribe and support Blaise the Trail podcast. Reviews are always welcome and very much appreciated. Thanks for listening. I'm Blaise Hunter.
You've been listening to Blaise the Trail with Blaise Hunter. To learn more about how you can breathe fire and unleash the hero within, or to listen to past episodes, visit blaisehunter.com.